The invisible danger. Have you ever wondered what would happen if our world changed right before our eyes? What if our behavior and appearance would change but we would realize it too late to be able to do anything? Hundreds of years ago, Terra was overpopulated. People became desperate because resources were scarcer and the life standards had decreased significantly. The crimes were common and a war was unavoidable. To keep away from reaching a catastrophe, mankind debated several alternatives of solving the problem. Of all, relocating the population on Mars seemed the most humane. Day 1. The first landing of man on Mars. After 253 days of difficult journey, the 6 volunteer astronauts finally arrived at their destination. The spaceship, Pieras 12, remained the control center during their stay, and the astronauts made the final preparations for the discoveries and experiments that would take place on the Red Planet. Day 2. Explorations began. The astronauts had their first expedition on Mars under favorable conditions. They studied the spaceship's surroundings and started looking for traces of alien forms of life. Nothing seemed relevant. They were surrounded by an ocean of red sand. Day 10. They found water. Finally, they found water in liquid form. This water was very full of very absorbent salts, which lowered its freezing point so that the water could remain liquid at low temperatures. The space travelers collected as many samples as they could to test them further in the laboratory. Day 25. A problem emerged. A group of meteorites struck the base. They damaged the section of the base that stored food. The astronauts' plans were completely ruined, and an emergency return was anticipated. In 5 days' time, the astronauts managed to leave Mars. Day 250. Oops. Right at the end of their journey, the water reserves were over. They tried to comply with the rules, but because of the terrible thirst, they drank the water samples taken from Mars. During the first tests, they had noticed some strange particles, but since there was no time to run any advanced chemical analysis, they had agreed to keep this a secret, given that the existence of a pathogen had been highly unlikely. Day 280. A reason for joy. The safe return of the astronauts is a reason for a global celebration. Their commitment, intelligence, and effort ensured the future of their descendants as settlers to be on Mars and possible future employees at NASA. 50 years after the first landing of men on Mars, the situation on Earth became more stable. The colonization of the planet Mars was possible, although under relatively rudimentary conditions. Also, scientists managed to keep alive some organisms from Terra. These life forms can survive up to 34 days in the rock cavities and in the cracks of the steep, stony soil of Mars. 150 years later, a strange phenomenon can be noticed globally. Several leaders of the nations on Terra have multiple common features, such as their height, under 150 centimeters, dictatorial personality, lack of empathy, and struggle with cooperation and communication. Likewise, there are more and more people with gigantism. Most of them have a gentle look and warm voice which compensates for their intimidating appearance. The best social workers, psychologists, or doctors come from this part of the population on both planets. 250 years later, Mars is a small copy of Terra. By using thermonuclear fusion processes encased in the Mars core, the researchers managed to heat up the inner layer of iron and nickel and restore the protective magnetic field, which allowed the inhabitants to use lighter consumes when going outside. The air was not affected by nuclear residue, since the fusion does not produce any fallout, but got warmer due to the heat transferred to it from the planet's crust. As the years passed, the colony brought water from Earth, the glaciers melted, and the atmosphere thickened because of the increasing quantity of water vapors. The vegetation began to spread over the planet, transferred the carbon dioxide into breathable oxygen, and so the transformation was going to end. Mars had been transformed into the sister planet of Terra. 400 years later, a totally different world. The human race has been divided into two socially and physically different nations, the Ardia and the Resia. The Ardians are very tall. They are all between 2 and 2.5 meters in height. Their brain is emphatic and they understand easily other people's feelings and emotions. The interpersonal relationships are the most important thing for them, as they are ready to sacrifice themselves for the others without hesitation. However, the Dardians have a strange way of interacting. They touch each other anytime they communicate. This is the way they greet the new people they meet, even if the interaction is very short. If a Dardian is not greeted properly or is spoken to without being touched, he will start yelling until the offense is mended. The Eurasians, on the other hand, suffer from pituitary dwarfism and have an incredible intelligence. They are geniuses that innovate technology so that life becomes easier and easier. However, the Eurasians empathize with difficulty, so their communication is restricted to the minimum necessary. They are practically immune to stress, and when they are put in front of a situation that threatens their survival, be it even social, the Eurasians adopt an egotistic approach, putting themselves first and using other persons to succeed. Anyway, however petty, and they can become aggressive on this matter. Due to their difficulties in communication, the Eurasians live separated from the Dardians. Year 2480. The present. After almost 500 years from the first contact with the virus, the minority of humans that still populated the Earth found a way to reverse the effects. The genetic engineering had a flourishing progress, so it is now possible to introduce a gene of total inhibition in the bodies of the people infected by the virus, through another virus produced in the laboratory. The president of the International Convention, the Restoration of Mankind, decided to implement a new program for resetting the DNA in order to bring mankind back to normal. He thinks that it is imperative to make this step, otherwise the lifespan of Eurasians and Dardians will be reducing dramatically in the next generations, due to the increasing health problems the infected people already have. So, despite the cost of making this project a reality, the virus will be eradicated during the course of 3 generations. What the president and the scientists who developed the cure don't know is that not everyone will cooperate and accept this change. Some might even take drastic measures to ensure that the curing agent is not spread.
Deci, pe ăsta spectru. Acum încerc să le facă mai repede, da?